Welcome to our presentation today. We are going to talk about how you can understand emotional intelligence and online relationships for increased student success in school and life. You will be able to take this information both personally and teach it to your children, students, and really see the impact and believe in that impact and have a happier classroom. As a teacher, I think that would be really fun for all of us, right? What if you could make more money than you do right now? What if you had more choices in your life? What if you could increase your level of happiness? Would that be interesting to you? Today I'm going to teach you some tools that will help you and statistically show that you can increase your happiness and your level of success by a lot. And we're going to talk more about that in just a few minutes. So first I want to start with our current situation. Currently, this is career tech education. So I wanted to make sure we were on the same page. I think a lot of people define career tech education differently. So I pulled off the internet that career tech education provides students of all ages with the academic and technical skills, knowledge and training necessary to succeed in future careers and to become lifelong learners. Would you agree? This is what you're about as a teacher in the classroom. Great, because I think this is the foundation of what we're going to be learning today and why it's important. The other situation that we need to bring into this conversation is internet and technology. Both of these have drastically changed and improved over the last decade, but also many decades, most of our life, they've been changing. And they allow us a lot of different benefits. They allow people to remove the emotion of purchasing as well as the emotion of interacting with people. Would you agree with that? Great. Okay. So the truth is that we're human beings and we are emotional human beings. And so even though we've got this technology that will remove a lot of this emotion, it's still part of who we are. So learning how to leverage that and be more in control of that will help you and your students be more successful. So another premise that we've got is that success requires us to be masters of our emotions and masters of our ability to manage our online presence and reputation in this day and age. So with that being said, your EQ, or your emotional intelligence, which I'm going to talk more about, and your online reputation matter very much. So what you will learn today is the drum roll. You will learn today how to understand the power of technology to communicate and build relationships for business in all areas of business and marketing. You will also learn the #1 mistake people are making today online. You will learn 5 steps to control your online presence. This is really important. We are going to switch over and we're going to talk about your emotional intelligence, or your EQ. I use those two terms interchangeably. We're also going to talk about how you can use your EQ to increase your success. And then we're going to bridge the gap between your online presence and your offline relationships. So are you interested? All right. So first I want to start with who I am. I have been a business owner for almost 30 years now. It makes me really old. I need to not say that anymore, but I feel really accomplished with where I'm at. I have owned 8 different businesses. I have been doing some level of what I'm doing since 1989, and my experience is in retail, it's in wholesale, it's in the restaurant business, and for the last 20-something years, I've been entrenched in marketing and business. With that being said, I've run a number of different businesses, all different levels, so I know how to manage teams, people. There's just a lot you learn when you've been in business for a while. I have been speaking and training for over the last 10 years, and I have 4 daughters. So I think that also sets me up to be able to talk to teachers because I've got this mom experience, this trainer experience. Another important fact about me here is that I have been on the marketing advisory board for the Granite School District in collaboration with the Jordan School District, Tooele School District, and a couple of other districts before they merged and changed their names since the inception about 6 years ago. So I've been working closely with Marketing and Business Advisory Board and Career Tech Education. I'm very passionate about it. So with that being said, we are going to talk next about using the power of technology to communicate and build relationships for business. All right, so the benefits of technology and relationships. We're talking about technology with the internet, with devices. Some of the benefits are communication on the fly, access to information anywhere. You can confirm details right in the moment so that you can be more on time and be more proactive. Any other benefits that you feel that we've gotten from the internet, technology, having devices, handheld devices all the time? I think it's important to look at the benefits because in a minute we're going to talk about mistakes. All right, so the number one mistake almost everyone is making. Do you have any ideas of what this might be? There are lots of mistakes that we see people making. So poor sharing choices online. We've all seen this happen firsthand. We've probably been related to people this last year who have made some poor sharing choices. Content, just sharing something that probably you shouldn't be sharing. Lack of awareness for the impact of the online participation. We see our younger generation doing this a lot more. What happens with that information? Because a lot of information stays there forever. So do you want your great-grandmother to see it? And do you want to see it when you're a great-grandmother? The big mistake that I think that people are making, the biggest mistake really, is ignoring your online presence. I see people in business in all different industries saying, you know what, I'm not even going to play that game. I'm not going to pay attention to what's online. There's nothing online about me, and I'm just going to pretend it's not there. I'll go on Facebook as a voyeur, but not going to do anything so nobody can ever see anything about me. And this is wrong, because you are online. And your online reputation matters. And we're going to talk about what is your online reputation as well. So there's 5 parts to your online reputation. It includes everything. Pick up your phone right there that you've got. You punch in information about me, and it's going to include a whole bunch of stuff on there. Everything that shows up in a search is part of your online reputation. Your reputation is the whole entire picture in that first impression that happens in a split second. So it's online reviews, it's site and directory listings, and I'm going to talk about that for a second. Yellow pages, we used to sit on that big huge book. Well, that book has gotten a lot smaller and they're even harder to come by because Yellow Pages is all online now. So if you have a phone, which everybody here does, and you've got it sitting out there, there's a listing with your information. And it's not just like the phone book used to be because now there's information about you. There's a short bio or a profile. There might be where you live. There might be other connections that you have. You can even find out how much you make or what the internet thinks you make. There's a lot of information, industry specific. Every single industry has lists just like this that they publish online. So you think you're not online, but you are, and you're there in a lot of different places. Social media, for the most part, even if you have private settings, your information will still, at least it shows that you're a person and it shows up in a search. And then websites. There's a variety of websites out there, all different kinds of websites that may or may not have your information on it. And blogs. If you've ever commented on a blog, participated on a blog, this is all part of what is incorporated into your online reputation. And according to Moz.com, 67% of consumers are influenced by online reviews. This was 2 years ago. Currently, statistics show that 4 out of 5 people will take an offline referral. So I tell you, hey, go call MaryPat because she's got exactly what you need. And in that moment, you pull me up on your phone. And if what you see on your phone isn't consistent with a referral that you just got, then it doesn't matter. You actually, more often than not, trust what you see online because you think your friend just had a one-off experience. And that's a risk that you might not be willing to take. This includes customers, employers, relationships. Think job seekers, think online dating, think any relationship that involves any kind of time or money. So not just consumer purchasing, not just eating out, This is almost every aspect of your life can be incorporated into online. So now we're going to talk about 5 steps. This is what you need to do in order to control all this information. Would you like, actually, I'm going to take a step back. Do you have any sense of what is online about you? Have you done a search for yourself in a while? How often do you do that?
Very rarely.
Yeah.
Maybe twice.
So there's a number of things that happen that change what shows up in a search all the time, probably more often than monthly. Things happen online that cause the search results to shift a little bit here and there. And sometimes there's things that happen that cause it to shift a lot. Everything that I showed with you in those areas of your online reputation, those are things that are out there, whether you want it to be or not. What I'm going to do next is share with you how to take control of those things, to understand what's out there, to control it, and to even build it so that it serves you on a higher level. Are you interested in knowing about that? All right. So 5 steps here. The very first one is you want to do a search on yourself, and you want to do this regularly. You want to also use all the relevant search engines. Right now that includes Google, Bing, and Yahoo. Between those 3, they take more than 90% of all searches, but there are other search engines that pop up, and there's also other sites that act as search engines. LinkedIn and YouTube are 2 of the top sites that are used for searches. If you're doing a how-to search, you go to YouTube. If you're looking for someone, you go to LinkedIn. So don't limit yourself to the search engines. Look at where else people are using searches as, and the sites as a tool. The second thing is that you're going to review the results. So it's one thing to just do the search. It's another thing to actually look at everything. You want to do a search on yourself, and you're probably going to need to put your city. The city is more important than the state right now because of the way the search engines are organizing information. They are prioritizing local information, and so they like cities attached to that. Once you've pulled the results up on the various search engines, actually look at the results and see. If you look at this bottom one right here, yp.com, that's our yellow pages. So I can't control that shows up, but I can control what does show up on there about me. I'm going to tell you how to do that in a minute. This other page on the right column here, you'll often see the search engines, all of the search engines are creating this little box. They want to try to optimize, and really their goal is to provide the best search results because that's how they get more people using their search engine. So this is a kind of a highlight of what they think you're looking for over here, and this is very impactful when somebody who doesn't know you is looking for you. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to all of this. You also want to take it to page 5 at least. The reason, even though depending on the search, the more money they're spending, the deeper they'll go into a search. But if they're not spending very much money, they're probably not going to go past page 1, maybe 2. However, with a Google shakeup that you guys have heard about, a Google shakeup can take something on page 5 and drop it all the way onto page 1 in a day. So if you're not paying attention to what's on page 5 about you, then, and something happens with the search engines, they decide to shift their algorithm, that page 5 result can show up on page 1, and you might not like what it is. So just know what's out there. It doesn't take very long to review it. And once you've done that, you want to claim everything that you can. Claiming is a process that includes, on that last page, if you want to go back, where it says, the last page, where it says, do you own this business? On most of these, yp.com, many of your results, many of the directory listings, industry listings, site listings, they have this link somewhere where you can claim it as your own. You want to do that, and then you want to verify it. Most of them do have a verification process, and then you want to update it. So you can hit that. I'm not really sure what the the technical term is for proceed there. And then you want to build it out. So you want to consider what shows up online as essentially your online resume. We all have a resume, and it's being updated daily whether you want it to be or not. It's a really powerful tool that we know career advisors are looking at. People who are hiring, employers are looking at. Your potential dating people out there are looking at. A lot of different people are looking at it for a lot of different reasons. And so it's important that you get on there, claim it, build it out, update your profiles with correct information. Doesn't have to be a lot, but it does need to be reflective of who you are. It needs to be real if you're trying to have this facade online. That's one of the things that technology has kind of blown apart. It's a lot more difficult to have that facade than it used to be. And so truth matters today online, and then monitor it regularly, and that's the last step. This might mean checking it out, doing this search and this process a couple times a year, depending on where you're at in life and in business. It could mean monitoring it every single month for a while. This year, so far in 2017, Google has shifted their algorithms every single month so far, once a month. So that's going to shake up what shows up about you online in a search that often. So if you did this a year ago, if you did it 3 months ago, it's going to show up different today. All right, one thing I do want to just stress for a moment is the real power. As I was preparing, there's so many, I speak to so many different groups of people all the time, but your online presence is your online resume, and it matters today more than it has ever mattered before, and I don't see that going away. It's something that we need to pay attention to. It's something that businesses need to pay attention to. It's something we need to actively teach our children how to be responsible for. And it's all of those things that we talked about. To take it to the next level, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is one of my favorite topics. I love people, I love collaboration, I love relationships, I love taking the offline stuff and making it online and vice versa. What I want to start with here is a story. I'm actually going to, this is what I'm teaching out of, this book, and I will share a link at the end so that you can get your own copy of this book if that's what you want. It is Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradberry and Jean Greaves, or Greaves. It's a super quick read. You can read the whole thing in probably an hour. And I'm going to give you the super duper Cliff Notes version on this book. But I'm going to start with this story, and it starts page 1 to 5 in this book. And it's a story of Butch Connor. It's a true story, and it's a story about how he was surfing off the coast of California, and probably in Monterey, I don't know, making that part of it up. And there was a shark. And he comes face to face with a shark, and he is absolutely paralyzed by fear. I can't even imagine what it's like to have that moment where he realizes there's a shark circling around him, and he can see the fin sticking out of the water, and he's there in the water with his surfboard, and he's clearly going to be eaten alive by this shark. And he's completely frozen. And something happens as he's processing, like this is the end of his life, and his life flashes before him. And when this happens, he realizes, I am not ready to dive, and I'm not ready to give up. And I'm not going to give up. And in fact, I'm not going to let this shark take my life away. I am going to fight. I am mad, I am angry, and he's not going to do this to me. And in a split second, he consciously shifted his energy from paralyzing fear to anger that actually served him. And when the shark went in to attack him, he took his surfboard and banged it into the shark's face. And it made the shark, took the shark back for a second, and he was able to swim to shore without a bite. And it's a true story. It's right at the beginning of this book. What's important about this story is that, I need you to go back for just a second. What's important about this story is that he was able to shift his perspective consciously from no hope and paralyzing fear to controlling his emotions. And it saved his life. That's what we're going to talk about with emotional intelligence. All right, thanks. So the brain is hardwired to give emotions the upper hand. The rational area of your brain communicates constantly with the emotional area, and this is the physical source of your emotional intelligence. So on the next slide here, I've got a visual here. Information comes in through the spinal cord. Are you familiar with this at all? It's really fascinating stuff. So it enters through the brain, and it goes into the limbic system, which is where you feel your emotions. Most of the time, most of us, we stop there and we let our emotions direct what happens next. But if you allow the information to go all the way to the rational part of your brain, which we know our young adults, that part's not even fully developed till their late 20s. So this may seem like an impossibility in this classroom dealing with kids. But I use this with my teenage girls. I actually do use this. And because no one really wants to be ruled by their emotions, even if the brain's not fully developed, they want to master this skill. So understanding how the brain works is the first step. And also recognizing that most of us stop in that limbic system and don't get to the rational part of the brain, and then we justify it by saying, well, I was right to feel angry, or I was right to feel upset. You were, but you didn't have to respond the way you responded. So, I'm going to get back to the emotional part of this, but I want to talk about IQ for a minute and performance. So here's a few statistics that I just find really fascinating and I love. People with the highest IQs outperform people with high EQs only 20% of the time. People with average IQs outperform people with high IQs 70% of the time. So EQ is the emotional intelligence, IQ is that intellect quotient. Success is not about your intellect, it is about your emotional management, your emotional quotient. So the big picture here, 2 out of 3 people are controlled by their emotions. So more than half of us are. And probably more than half of us more than half the time. These same people are not skilled at managing their emotions. Only 1 of 3 people can spot emotions and use them to benefit from the situations. Who wants to be one of those 1 out of 3 people, right? We want to be someone who's more in control. Nobody really likes feeling like they're out of control. So this is really about empowering ourselves and empowering our students and our children and those around us. So there's 5 core emotions. Some would argue there's a lot more than that, but for the sake of this book, we're going to bucket all of your emotions into 5 categories. One is happiness, sadness, anger, fear, and shame. So all emotions fall into one of those 5 categories. We also have an emotional reaction to almost everything that happens in our life. So how we deal with that is important. There are moments, many moments for some of us, where we are emotionally hijacked. When your emotions control your behavior, you react without thinking. This is not where we are proactive. This is where we're very reactive. The more intense your emotions are, the more likely that they will dictate your actions, and thoughts can help you control your behaviors instead of your emotions. So if we can just move that information through the emotional part of our brain to the thinking part of our brain, it allows us to maintain a level of control. Triggers are when something generates a prolonged emotional reaction in you. Trigger events. I'm sure you can think of some of these trigger events, the last emotional outbreak you had. Your reaction to these triggers are shaped by your personal history and other similar situations that have happened to you. As your emotional intelligence grows, you will be able to create habits that result in increased production. So I want you to write down on your paper, what is an emotional trigger, a trigger event that you know? Because when we can get conscious about this information, we can start to be proactive. So a trigger event is when our emotions get the best of us. I can tell you a trigger event for me is when my ex-husband sends me a text message. Almost always, I have a moment where I have to take a breath and I need to get in control. And if I don't have that moment to breathe because I'm busy doing something, or I'm already at an emotional state because I'm handling things, I just go off the deep end in a second. So probably most of the time he's not intending that for that to happen, but it happens because we have that great relationship where we trigger each other. People who are really close to you are better at triggering you, not because we want to trigger you most of the time. Sometimes they're just mean that way. Most of the time we don't want to be triggering those around us, and most of the time we don't want to be triggered. But those who we trust the most, who we care about the most, those are the people that usually have the greatest impact. But sometimes it's just the person at the drive-thru, right? We all have had those moments. IQ versus EQ. This is, intelligence or IQ is your ability to learn. It is not flexible and it does not change. However, emotional intelligence is flexible and it is a learned skill. It is something that when we understand what it is, we can improve those skills. I'm going to share more about how you can do that. Intelligence, there's 3 real parts to what happens inside your whole entire body. There is your IQ, which again, it doesn't change, it's stable. There is your personality, which doesn't change. It's fairly stable. Might shift with a life or a traumatic experience or something, but for the most part, these are both non-flexible, stable things that are part of who you are. Your emotional intelligence is flexible, and you can learn the skills to improve. The first step is to become aware. So, emotional intelligence is a score that is a combination of both self-competence and social competence. So the impact of emotional intelligence there's so much. It affects your decision making, your tolerance about changes, communication, customer service, social skills, presentation skills, anger management. A lot of your executive functioning skills you can find. And we know that executive functioning skills are learned between the teenage years into young adult, again, when that brain is fully developed at the front part of our brain. But we can still, as we improve these emotional intelligence skills, we can also have an impact on our ability to manage those executive functioning skills at a faster rate. It is the single biggest predictor of performance in the workplace. It is the strongest driver of leadership. If you look in your classroom and see who are the leaders, the real leaders, not just the ones that are causing a stir, they're probably higher in their emotional intelligence than some of the other kids in the classroom. It's also the strongest driver of excellence. So really powerful stuff here. The impact of your emotional intelligence, 90% of high performers are high in their emotional intelligence. A high EQ equates to approximately $29,000 more per year than a low EQ. So who doesn't want that, right? And it's learned, so we can get there. Each EQ point equates to $1,300 rise in annual salary according to stats. Again, these stats are in the Emotional Intelligence 2.0 book that I've referenced here. And I think what's most important here is that a high emotional intelligence equates to happier people. Lots and lots of studies have been done for almost 30 years now on this exact thing. So, quite frankly, I don't care how much money I have, I want to be a happier person. I want more money gets me more things, but if I can be in a happier state going through this process, it just feels better, right? So, let's understand these 4 skills. Personal competence is self-awareness and self-management. So it's both of these pieces together. It's really your ability to stay aware of your emotions and manage your behaviors and tendencies. Social competence is social awareness with relationship management skills. And this is your ability to understand other people's moods, behavior, and motives in order to improve the quality of your relationships. Now these relationships, that term is used, I think, very lightly, because this can be in a sales process. If I'm trying to sell you something and I'm reading your body language and what you're feeling, and I can connect with that, there's a higher likelihood that I'm going to be successful in my selling, right? This is true when you're having a conversation. Again, I practice these skills on my kids and my ex-husband because they're great tools for practice. You can practice all the time. And it really, when you're conscious and you're on purpose about it, it really can have a great impact. And everybody leaves the scenario feeling happier. So here's a visual about personal competence and social competence. We've got what I see, which is the awareness side of things, and then what I do, which is your own ability to manage those pieces. The skills themselves are this self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management. So the skills, your skill at managing yourself. The book has amazing information and strategies to build these skills, but also to educate you on, this is a skill for self-awareness, this is a skill for self-management. So we're going to touch on this, and like I said, this is the super fast version of this. I also do corporate training where I spend 6.5 hours teaching the same stuff that you're getting in 20 minutes. So how can you improve your emotional intelligence, and why does it matter? So first off, we're going to dive in deeper into self-awareness. This is your ability to accurately perceive your own emotions in a moment. So what's happening to me in this moment? The first step is really noticing it. This is your ability to understand your tendencies across situations. You can foresee what's going to happen, and that usually triggers me. So when you start to become aware like that, you're becoming more self-aware, and that's what we're talking about here. It does require a willingness to tolerate discomfort of focusing on all feelings. Self-awareness is not pretending that you don't have emotions or just pushing them through or not feeling them. You still need to feel those emotions. That's an important part of what you're doing. And that's an important part of the emotional intelligence here. With self-awareness, you must spend time thinking through your emotions in order to figure out where they're coming from and why they are there. They always serve a purpose. This is really important. A lot of people just want to go, okay, I don't feel that anymore. Oh, I don't get triggered. Well, probably you do, and you're ignoring it. And that's not as healthy as recognizing that you're triggered, understanding why it's there, and then maybe shifting your perspective so that you can tell yourself a different story about it. That is a lot more mature on the emotional intelligence side of things than just not acknowledging that you're feeling something, because that's like being a volcano and it ends up blowing up. People who are self-aware understand what they do well, what motivates them, what satisfies them, which people push their buttons, and which situations also push their buttons. So taking all that information and then learning about how to manage yourself. This is what happens when you act or do not act. Sometimes noticing that you're feeling something but not doing something about it is the best thing that you can do. It doesn't mean that you're ignoring it again. It is dependent on your self-awareness. You've got to notice it first in order to decide whether you're acting or not acting. And your ability to use your awareness of your emotions to stay flexible and direct your behavior positively. This is really important. Emotions can be paralyzing, just like Butch Connor at the beginning, but we've all been there where we just couldn't get past what we were feeling. They can cloud your judgment, and it's more than just resisting that explosive or problematic behavior. The biggest challenge is really how to manage tendencies over time and apply those skills to a variety of situations. So I recommend a great starting point here is to just notice. Just notice what's happening without judgment and without the need to go, okay, I have to fix this right now. If you can just start by noticing things, that's really powerful. And then start having the conversation with yourself. What can I do about this? What are some of my options? The more you can do that, the slower you will be to react, and the more on purpose and less control your emotions will have over you. So social awareness. This is your ability to accurately pick up on emotions in other people and understand what is really going on with them. I want to stress the word accurately. So many times, my ex-husband, he says, well, I know what happens when you're doing this. Well, you're so wrong. Thus, the ex part of the husband. But it's important because I think we know things when we don't necessarily know. And communication is about the success of the intended meaning landing as it's intended. You stay focused and absorb critical information that's happening around you. You do not get caught up in your own emotions, which is very easy to do. We all have that reaction. So, to be socially aware, you want to be listening and observing. These are the two most important elements. In order to do this, you must stop talking. The monologue, the talking that goes on in your head that doesn't come out of your mouth, we all have it. Anticipating what the next person is going to say. My mother does this so much. And I think, again, this happens when you have a relationship with someone where you think you know what's going to be said next. It can be really frustrating in a conversation and you're not always right. So take that breath and really, truly listen. Unplug. Put your phone down. Don't be connected to anything. Be totally present. That is required to be socially aware. One of the things that I like to do to practice my social awareness is people watching. I do it from my front porch because I live in an urban area where there's people around all the time. You can go to the mall. It's a great place for go downtown. Just watch and notice what's happening. It's really fascinating. It's fun. And it is one of those things to build that particular skill. Relationship management is to take everything that we've talked about, your self-awareness, your self-management, and your social awareness. And now you're going to use those skills to manage the relationships, the interactions that you're having with different people. This requires clear communication. And again, communication is about the intention landing where it's intended. So both people are on the same page. You don't think you're on the same page, you really are. It's the effective handling of conflict and the ability to see the benefit of connecting with people you like, but also with people you don't like, that you're not fond of. Maybe there's a kid in your class that you're not really excited about, or a teacher in the lounge, or a family member, right? We've all got that family member. So relationship management, successful relationship management is the result of how you understand people. It's how you treat them. It's the history that you share. And here's a great visual that just shows the continual flow of this information going around from self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. They're all important, and it's all of those things that make up your emotional intelligence. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take your emotional intelligence. And the first conversation we had about online reputation, and we're going to bring them together. Any guesses why it's important to have both of these skills? Let's talk about online reviews. Those are a really big thing right now, and those are not going away. These directory listings, yp.com, Facebook, there is a review component on almost everything that we touch online now. And people, generally speaking, will do a review when they're feeling an emotional heightened state. So it's either really great or really bad. Well, if it's really bad, you need to be able to respond to it. And somebody who is less emotionally intelligent is not going to respond as well as somebody who is able to process those emotions and get to the rational side and try to see all of the areas. One of the things that is really imperative with online reviews is that the person being attacked in that negative review responds. But you don't want to respond with just that reactionary, initial, emotional state that we end up in when somebody attacks us. You want to make sure that you're presenting yourself professionally and responsibly. So there's an example of why you need both of these to be successful, right? So developing, claiming, and monitoring your online presence will help you claim and control your online reputation. Controlling is about being responsible with your reputation, And it will allow doors to open and impact your future possibilities in careers, in business, professionally, personally, in all areas of life, because there is an online component to almost everything we do now. Understanding and mastering your emotional intelligence will increase the likelihood for success and happiness. And the combination of both the online reputation and this emotional intelligence that we've talked in depth about together will increase your likelihood for success and opportunities going forward. So the conclusion is that your positive online reputation plus a high emotional intelligence equals more choices in life, higher level of happiness, and inherently a higher level of success. So that is my presentation today. I want to thank you all for showing up and humoring me throughout the presentation. If you are interested in purchasing this book, here is the link. It is also at the bottom of your handout. Again, this is my affiliate link. You will not pay more for this, but I will get a kickback if you do buy it through my link. All right, thank you very much for coming in, and thank you guys for everything.